every time I give lectures, I just reflect on myself. How could I deliver lectures much more interesting and much more kind of give you some curiosity. I'm just wondering. I visited Cambodia, that the Siem Reap, that place, the Angkor Wat was located. Anyone of you visit that area, Angkor Wat? Yeah. I stayed one hotel there. It's Western style. It's so convenient. But inside that hotel, I there 4 or 5 years ago. I flew all the way with the flight. One of my relatives even give me the business seat. That's the first time I ever get the business seat, and it's so comfortable. When I landed at Siem Reap, the travel agency, we meet one of the agents there, and they bring their small bus. We have only 15 members, 15 tourists. It's so comfortable, and we went all the way to the hotel. It's so nice. But inside that hotel, I wanted to connect myself. But all through the 3 days and nights, I failed to connect just one time. Although I paid all the money, there are some 30 minutes or 1 hour time limits. But all through that time line, I failed to connect because the line is too busy. I failed every day, every time. That means I never have succeeded in connecting myself to internet. That event, that instant, reminded me many things about myself and my country. When I was just a boy, there were many American friends all around my home because my maternal grandma is a businessman, and there were so many business with the American guys. I think they are very awkward when they come to visit my home because we don't have any chairs and the tables. They have to sit down. But the American, their body structure, they cannot sit just like us. So they are very uncomfortable. Although the dishes are so delicious, they really enjoy it. But their body language is somewhat awkward. I can tell, although I'm just teenagers. I learned how to speak English when I was in middle school from one of the Peace Corps members who got dispatched from the mainland, the US Peace Corps. After I joined the university, I have chances to have some conversation with them. I learned, they are from advanced, they are developed, rationalized world. When I visit Cambodia, I come to understand when the Americans came to Korea in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, what Korea looks like from the American or Westerners' point of view. Although they think Koreans are very, sociable, they are very kind, and they are very innocent people. They knew that very well. But from the Westerners' point of view, Korean people were under-rationalized, underdeveloped. So they cannot make any business with Korean people because the Korean people's way calculating, thinking about the world is very different from that of the Americans. Here, it hit upon my eyes. Here, I want to explain about this. For Weber, modern society was above all a society pervaded by rationalism, and its history was a history of rationalization, of an ever-growing involvement in a rationalistic culture and of ever-growing commitment to rationalistic forms of action. In turn, the peculiar hallmark of this peculiar modern rationalism was, as he saw it, a calculating moral approaches to human problems which progressively invaded all aspects of life. It was in this sense that rationality was the peculiar historical fate of the whole world in which he lived in. It's very interesting. In this concept, rationalism and rationalization and rationality, there is no value judgment at all. No value judgment. For example, in the past, when you try to kill somebody, actually it's very difficult to do that. In order to kill somebody, you have to stab him, or you have to hit him. So there was some blood just splitting, and you watch the agony of your own foe, your enemy. You can feel that nowadays there are massive killing devices. You can just button. You can kill just lots of people, hundreds and thousands of people. So that's the rationalization of war. You can kill lots of people, even feeling any agony or any emotional reactions from your own enemies. That's rationalization. During the Second World War, the Nazis, they can massively kill Jews and Gypsies and many people because they invented that gas, mass killing gas. That's rationalization. So don't think of rationalization. Rationalization is a good thing. Oh no. I told you that when the human being, they invented airplane, in strictly technical terms, that just near. It takes weeks and days to move from one place to the other place in the past. But when you take airplane, it's just hours or minutes to get there. So in that sense, it's very rational, convenient. But that does not mean we make our world much more peaceful and safer place. They make the jet fighters and the intercontinental missiles, and by that, they make that flying object kind of awful. It's really, they intimidate. When you watch that airplane, what do you feel? Most of you don't have any chances, any experiences to have the bombing of the bombers or the airplanes. So you think of airplane as very convenient instrument for you to fly from here to somewhere in this globe. But my parent generation, when they watch the flying object, the airplane over the sky, usually their reaction is somewhat got frightened. They watched that airplanes bombing during the Second World War and during Korean War. So I want to explain you the connotation, the meaning of rationalization. Rationalization has nothing to do with value. Is it better for you to kill 20 people just one shot? From the rationalist point of view, it's much more rational, that's for sure. If you try to kill 20 people by one word, it just costs you lots of energy. and you fear the blood of your enemy 20 times. You can fear. And the agony of the human being you are about to kill. But when you have machine guns in your hand, you just pull the trigger, and just 20, 30, or 40 people got fallen. That's the meaning of rationalization. The rationalization of killing. You can kill lots of people just one shot. That's the meaning of rationalization. So is it much better to kill many people just one shot? So Weber tried to compare his own view of history against Marx. From Marx's point of view, the Marxist approach is the single most important social aspect is capitalism, capitalist exploitation. That's really the big problem. The most important, prominent features of our society, capitalism. But from Weber's point of view, that's just part of modern society. That's just the economic aspect of modern society. Cultural aspect, bureaucratization, legalization. Cultural aspect, amoral approaches. Amoral. I asked you once before, long time before, in the beginning of this class, what does it mean to amoral? Ahistorical, amoral. What this prefix a means? I challenged you a couple of weeks ago. What's your value aside from earn money? Who can challenge? Money is everything. You can buy everything with money. Anyone can argue against that. Money is not everything. Weber, although he is a very acute critic of capitalist system, he's talking about this, calculating. Once again, I repeat this, the same sentence. In turn, the peculiar hallmark of this peculiarly modern rationalism was, as Weber saw it, a calculating, amoral approach to human problems, which progressively invaded all aspects of life. Calculating, amoral approaches. What hit upon your brain when you hear this word, amoral approaches? Why Weber defined amoral approaches? What does it mean, amoral? Why Weber put it like this, where amoral approaches? Do you remember a couple of years ago, one of our big conglomerates, the head of the one conglomerate, I forgot his name, his son got beaten during alcohol sessions. He asked his aides to find out that bastards, and he himself just hit the guys who beat his own son. And what happened after that event? He gave them huge amount of money. Do you remember that instant, that story? One of the leaders, the directors of our big conglomerate. No, I don't want to know the name, but that's typically this amoral approaches. I want to let you know what this means. Amoral approaches. You got really angry at hearing your own son got hit by some guys in the bars, in the restaurant. You ask your aides, your secretaries to take them, and you hit them by yourself, and then give them money. I got infuriated. I hit him. I know you got somewhat wounded. You should go to the hospital, take a rest and take some treatment. I will give them money to cover. That's the mentality. That's typical amoral approaches. I'm not sure, but I ask you, when you went to the private school to prepare for the midterm exam or the final exam, when you're in middle school and high school, I think that's the same vein, I think. The rule of the game is supposed to be you should read your textbook and make some summaries and read again and re-educations and to memorize some part of that book. And you take that action. That should be the rule of the game. But you have, your parents, they have money to support you. You join that private school, private class, and you come to know, what kind of questions were on the exams. You have chances to solve, although not the same questions, but almost the same questions. And so you can beat your friends in that exam. To secure our countries from North Korean invasion, we pay lots of money to buy much more advanced weapon systems from the US. In buying that kind of advanced weapon systems, we think we are much more safer. What kind of morality in that behavior? Is typically amoral approaches to solving our problems. I don't want to raise this kind of examples, but in your intimate life, when you make friends, your female or male friends, I think nowadays when I have chances to have some conversation with my students, when I compare your generation, say 1 decade ago or 1 generation ago, your way of making relationship with your different sexes, male or female, making male or female friends, is very different. I think it's my personal opinion. I don't have any data to prove my assertion, but this is my insight. Nowadays, I think money is getting much more important. You don't say, money is not everything. You can say, you don't think you really think of money. And money is the single most important thing, or is the single, most. You don't think yourself. You pay, not that much attention to money in your friends, family background, or in your friend's pocket. But anyway, in order to have some date, I think it's getting much more expensive. Do you hear that song by 이적, 조조할인? That means if you take the first movie, that's usually early in the morning, 10 o'clock or 10:30 in the morning. That's almost half of the price. But you have to, you should be an early bird to have the chances. But in the song, Ijov actually talking about, he told his girlfriend he wanted to take the first movie because he wanted to save the money. But actually he wanted to be with his girlfriend from early in the morning. That means, at night, he had to return his girlfriend to the home. There was some norm out there. The girl, even though the college student, had to be back home until 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the evening. So to meet the girlfriend early in the morning, he argued. He wanted to meet her and took the first session, the first round of that movie. But when I'm not enthusiastic movie goer, I have just 5 or 6 times per year, so I'm not that enthusiastic. But whenever I go to the movie theater, I come to realize that the amount of money to watch the movie with girlfriend or boyfriend, my wife, is somewhat higher than my own expectation. I don't want to spend that amount of money in the movie watching. But anyway, the point is, it's getting harder for the ordinary people, ordinary student, to have some good time with boyfriend or girlfriend. The bar, the threshold is getting higher and higher. And so if you don't have enough money, not lots of money, but enough money, you cannot have that kind of ordinary life, dating with your girlfriend or boyfriend. By the way, in Korea, do you know that some difference between boyfriend and girlfriend and male friend and female friend? Do you have the distinction in Korea and in China? When I asked one of my American friend, he accompanied female, and I asked him, is she your girlfriend? No, just female friend. So what's the difference between girlfriend and female friend? Oh, he had difficulty in explaining how to, and finally he found some solutions. So in the US, I'm not sure, that's not that representative. Anyway, his way of describing the difference between girlfriend and female friend. The female friend is just, she's a friend, but happen to be female. That's female friend. He has many male friend and female friend. He accompanied her, but not her, his girlfriend. Just friend plus female, female friend. Categorically, it's female, that's female friend. But girlfriend means he has some, not just sexual connotations. There's not sexual relationships, no sexual intercourse, but as a different gender, he has some interest in her. That's girlfriend. So when I get that explanation, I just refrain myself from, is she your girlfriend? Oh, that's somewhat tough, I'm not sure. In the what's your habit? What's your common sense of that word? Girlfriend, boyfriend, and male friend and female friend. Do you have that seriousness in choosing that word, that concept? Do you? What's your reaction when someone asks you, is he your boyfriend? No, that's just male friend. Do you usually say it just like that in Korea nowadays? I just want to know whether the sea changed or not. 남자? Oh, really? That's, I think, the same. Male friend, female friend, boyfriend and girlfriend. So I think you have some connotation when you say girlfriend and boyfriend. Yeah, I see. When Weber talk about rationalization, you should be very careful. When Weber talk about rationalization, rationalism, and rationality, he, either don't praise or blame that process or that concept. He's just talking about the process, general process. And people is getting much more calculating and amoral. It's very interesting. Amoral. I refrain myself in joining some alcohol sessions because nowadays the culture so much changed. But in early 1990s and before the IMF crisis, when the male friend meet, they always have some females accompany them. I don't have any money with my pocket, so I cannot join the kind of alcohol sessions. But when my dear friend invited me to that kind of meetings, they usually give me some money before joining that sessions with female. That's so awkward, so I don't want to join that. But later I come to understand that in this capitalist society, that's totally immoral. But when you have more money, you can have better chances to have much more beautiful, woman around you. That's the way how the rationalization. And if you are much more beautiful and much more refined, you have much more chances to have much wealthier boyfriend. That's the meaning of rationalization, a amoral process, amoral approaches. I told you one of my friends, he's now the Tokyo University professor. His master's degree thesis is the proper price for prostitution. How much is enough for prostitution? When I heard that the title and his own topic of the master's thesis, I got really shocked. And what kind of guy is he? I really scored him. I even don't think of him as a human being. How could he take that kind of topic as his master's thesis? But later I come to understand that I got really angry at that topic, but people are getting accustomed to estimating how much is enough. I still remember his main argument is, if the government did not intervene, that means if the government let them have the freedom to have free sex, the fee for prostitution is getting lower and lower without governmental intervention. There should be some Pareto optimal, and it's much cheaper in the market. So I got really shocked. It's 1991 and 1992, 20 years ago. But nowadays, if I find some of my students or some of my friends choose that topic, the same topic, I'm not that shocked. I'm not that get angry. Why? as I myself got morally just degraded, I think people are getting more and more amoral, getting amoral. Calculating. As a moral human being, Durkheim really got angry at this process, this trend. So he wanted to re-moralize people, human being, new kind of social cohesion, new enthusiasm, new passions to reshape our own society. Durkheim tried to rebuild, rehabilitate our society. He paid attention to the moral side of the society. But Weber's estimation of this modern society is very different. Weber, he don't think we could correct, we could make it straightforward. We have to stand. We have to adjust ourselves. Weber is too rationalistic and realistic. Page 85, line 6 from below. I told you, Weber is so dry, and if you read through Weber's articles and books, in the end you got just your spirit got split. Your soul got just disrupted. You cannot stand that contradictions of this society in this world. You cannot find any meaning, any value in this society. Nobody give you any meaning in your own life. You yourself have to find your own goals, your own values. Nobody bestow, nobody give you any value or goals of life you should pursue. Pre-modern world, that was possible, and that was just everywhere. When you attend the church or cathedral, your reverend or your guide in the church, in the cathedral, they guide you. You should pursue this kind of goal, this kind of value. You should pursue this kind of meaning. After the modern world, nobody can do that. That history is embedded in economic action. That's the rise of capitalism. Political action, the rise of bureaucratic administration, law, and the state. And cultural action, the decline of magic and religion, and the rise of science and technique. The analysis of rationalization thus provides the unifying theme of Weber's excursions into all fields of historical sociology. Rationalization is the covering up, the comprehensive concept in the modern society and his historical sociology. Page 86. Conversely, although the transition to capitalism is seen by him as the most momentous, significant, and analytically crucial form of rationalization, that transition was not, in Weber's view, something that could be understood in isolation, merely as economic history. However one-sidedly one might have to approach history for methodological reasons, I told you that methodological approach is of ideal type, one-sidedly. The reality of history was one in which economic action, political action, and cultural action are entangled in a single social whole. Weber's studies of the problem of the rise of capitalism are therefore invariably and often predominantly also studies in religious history and in political history as well as in economic history. So, Marx, he just marginalized the influence of religion. He just put religion aside. It's just the opium of the people. He don't pay much attention to the religion and the ideological side of the modern world and the bureaucratization of the state. He pay attention to the capitalist development. So Marx pay attention to the economic history alone. Economic history is the most important history. That's the base of human society, this world. But for Weber, economic history is just one. You should know political history, cultural history, religious history. Indeed, Weber's sense of the specific task of a sociologist as being that of pursuing causal explanations at the level of meaning impelled him not just to try to place the history of economic action in its cultural and political context, but to a much more radical confrontation of economic history and cultural and political history. Sociologically, the problem of the rise of capitalism had to be defined as a problem of the world of meaning in which capitalist economic action was enabled to grow. It was a matter of understanding and then explaining not capitalism as such, but the spirit of capitalism. Here comes that masterpiece of Weber's writing. Spirit. The explosion and diffusion of capitalist activity had to involve whatever else it might have involved and presupposed a complex of meaning, an ethic or spirit within which the historically extraordinary practices and relationships of capitalism could be understood as proper or even necessary. The work of the historical sociologist of capitalism is therefore first to understand just what the ethical medium in which capitalism grew, and secondly to explain how such an ethos could have come to exist. And we return to page 84. The third paragraph from below. Yet, just as the structure of the modern world was contradictory in Marx's eyes, built as it was merely on the substitution of capitalist relationships for feudal class relationships, so for Weber, the culture of the modern world was profoundly contradictory, since it embodied a rationalization which was at odds with reason. In his own terms, a gulf is opened between formal rationality and substantive rationality. This is one of the key concepts in Weberian sociology: formal rationality and substantive rationality. Anyone can give the definitions of formal rationality and substantive rationality? What is formal rationality and what is substantive rationality? Formal rationality and substantive rationality. What is formal rationality? What is formal rationality and what is substantive rationality? I'm not sure. This is a good example. In the past, when you join the university, when you go to university, in 1980s, only one quarter, 25% of the people can join that university. So when you join university, you become an intellectual, whether you like it or not, because 75% of the people who graduated high school cannot join the university. So you belong to the 1/4. So even though you deny yourself, you are not an intellectual at all. People think of you as an intellectual. See? So when you come back to your hometown, many of your friends who cannot join the university, they ask you, what is Seoul look like, and what is Korean politics look like? What is the global affair is going on? They ask you so many things. Or do you major in mechanics or biology or chemistry? They ask you so many things. So you cannot say, oh, I major in physics. I have no interest in Korean politics or Korean society, Korean culture. You cannot say that. They have some demand. You cannot just ignore. Nowadays, more than 80% of people join university. Nobody asks you, Korean politics and what's happening in the Progressive Party or something like that. So the substantive rationality, if you become an adult, if you become a university student, people there are some social demand. You should have some Bildungs. You should have some common sense to explain them. What's happening in our society and in this world? That's substantive. But now, it's getting rationalized. You guys are pursuing formal rationality, not substantive rationality. Even though you have no idea about sociology or the structure and dynamics of this society, you can argue that if you have attend, say 20 classes or 20 or 30 subjects, you can argue that I major in sociology. Or do you know nothing about sociology and Korean society? Can you understand the difference between formal and substantive rationality? Formal means you get your degree. After you graduate, you can argue that you have undergraduate degree. You graduate sociology department. You can say that it's formal. You have the diploma in your hand. Nobody can deny that. But when they ask you, what is sociology? Who do you think is the great social thinker in history? Do you know anything about Marx or Max Weber? Even though you have no idea about that at all, you can argue still. I major in sociology. Nobody can challenge that. That's formal rationality. Formal rationality is true. You major in sociology. You got that degree. That's for sure. But from substantive point of view, do you have any substantial understanding of that discipline? I have many times talked about this story. When you are just 10 years old, in the past, we have at least 3 kids. 5 to 6 is the average in my parent generation. I'm the 4th. So my elder sister is 9 years older than me. My brother is 3 years older than me. One brother got dead just after he was born. So in the past, the death rate of the babies was so high. So if they gave birth to 5 to 6, 2 or 3 survived. But nowadays, if one child survives, so 3 or 5 to even 10, family members, your brothers and sisters. If you are just say 5 or 6 years old, you have 1-year-old baby. When your mother is out, you should take care of that baby, even though you are just 5 or 6 years old, even before you join the elementary school. See? You have your own job. You have your own substantive role in your own family. When you're just 10, you run from school, you take care of your 5-year, 3-year, 1-year-old brothers. when your parents are absent, you take care of your own sisters and brothers. In that sense, you are an adult, although you are just 10 or 15 years old. See? Now you are just 1 or 2. And so, not much relationship with your brother or sister. Usually it's very conflictual, not that friendly. And usually there's only one child. In that case, even though you are 20 years, even 30 years old, you have nobody to take care of if you did not get married. You have nobody to take care of. Until you are 30 years old, formally, you are an adult. After 20 years old age, you think of yourself, yeah, I'm an adult. But actually, you have no social law. Do not take care of anyone. Even you are 25 years old, after you discharged from the military service, 25 years, 30 years, you are still a child. Get that? In formal sense, formal rationality, you are an adult. You are more than 19 years old. You have the vote, and you think of in the legal world, you become an adult. But in economic and cultural sense, you are not an adult at all. The formal rationality and the substantive rationality is different. It's totally different. Weber just epitomized this. The means becomes the end. Means becomes the end. What does it mean? Why do you join university? Why do you join the graduate school? In order to study. Learn something, right? But even though you got the master's degree, you do not know anything about Korean society or sociology. Even though you have master's degree in your hand, formal rationality, you are already, master's degree holder. But in substantial sense, in substantive rationality, when you compare yourself with the knowledge of sociology and social world, when you compare yourself with your elder generation, decade ago or generation ago, the amount of knowledge compared to your elders is just so timid. It's almost nothing. But you have diploma disease, diploma inflation. The people have that common sense when they are just middle school student and high school student. You join the university, and the amount of knowledge and the amount of people you have to take care of, so small, getting smaller. But you are getting older and you have inflation of diploma. So there was some divergence, contradiction between formal rationality and substantial rationality. The question is, if we have much more lawmaker, the lawyer, or more amount of doctors, they make our society more just and much more healthy society. What do you think? If we have, double the amount of lawyers or prosecutors or judges and triple of the medical doctors, do they make our society much more just and healthy society? What do you think? That's the contradiction, the divergence of formal rationality and substantive rationality. Who should take care of your own health? You. But you ask your doctors, family doctors, for all the digest and all the, although they knew the history of your family disease, but you should take care of your own health. So Weber, whenever I read Weber's articles and books, it's so, it's very awkward. I cannot follow, catch up with him, his thought. In order to catch up with his thought, I myself get, always overrun myself. I cannot breathe. His analysis of modern society is so acute, so profound, and so realistic. The means becomes the ends. Why do you join university? In order to learn something about human being, our society, our history. But even after you get, if you have dual degrees, sociology and history, you don't know much about our own society and history. One generation ago or one century ago, just 1 decade ago, your predecessors, they know much more about our society, our world, human being, compared to yours. I will stop covering this first textbook today, and next week I will cover all the pages of second textbook, the State and International Relations. Thank you. See you next week.